All right. We're live, baby. We're live. Deal with me, guys. We're just getting started. I'm getting a late start because today I helped work the dyewood booth at the Shags tent sale at Shags Sporting Goods. And to me, it's the South Shore. Metairie, Kenner, it's all the same to me. But they're off Veterans Boulevard. My apologies. But it was good. Got to talk to a lot of people. Um, uh, People absolutely bought up a lot of the Daiwa Tatula SVs and Tatula 100s. And that's because they're badass reels, and a good deal of our rods too. So, anyways, let's go ahead and get this weekend fishing forecast rolling. All right, because I know y'all saw all the rain today, and there's going to be a little bit more tomorrow. But there are some things to look forward to. You can absolutely get out there and catch some fish. So let me go and share my screen here, and we are going to begin with current conditions. All right, so here's the Shell Beach buoy, and we're looking at the water levels since April 1st, and the water levels have been up. Okay, water is high, and it especially got really high today because we had some really strong winds out of the east from this crazy low thing that just went over. I mean, we saw gusts upwards of 30 knots, 29.55, 30.13. There we go. So that'll definitely kick water levels up, right? Now, real quick, something I want to bring. Let me change screens here. Something I want to bring to your attention is that whenever we get a really strong east wind, all right, it'll raise water levels up, boop, 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 because it's blowing all that water into the marsh. As soon as it stops, or just stops blowing as hard, that water is going to fall out. And if you've seen my false neap tide article on the blog, on Louisiana Fishing Blog, and if you haven't, you've got to read it. Just Google false neap tide, go to lafishblog.com, go to the search box, look for false neap tide. And it's basically a way where you can kind of game how the water's really going to move. All right, because tide tables don't work all that well. They work. I mean, it's just a prediction of what the water's going to do if everything is equal and even and perfect. But that's not the world we live in. Okay, things are not equal and even and perfect when it comes to conditions in inshore fishing. So if the tide's supposed to be rising or falling or whatever it is it's going to say when we look at it, understand that it's going to be falling. If we have a 20 to 30 knot wind and it kicks down to like a 15 to 20 or a 10 to 20. All right, so falling water is really good right now. Anyways, all right, pressing on. So water's up. Water temperature is up. I'm guessing this is some kind of low. It's definitely not a cold front if the temperature's up. And I say that because well, let's look at the synopsis from NOAA Marine forecast, and it says yes, a series of low pressure systems moving through Gulf South over the weekend will impact the coastal waters. A cold front should sweep through the waters Monday night, and high pressure will build over the waters on Tuesday. Okay, so this is pretty good timing for us for the weekend. Current conditions. Something else I want to touch on too is this salinity map. All right, guys, this is pretty current, and I don't know how well you can see these numbers that are on these lines, but basically the blue line is fresh or like a very low salinity, like 4 parts per thousand, and then the orange lines over here, those are closer to full strength salt water. In fact, you can kind of see the legend right here. Anything that's like red, that is 30 to 35 parts per thousand salt water. Full strength salt water is 35. And people keep talking about saltwater fishing that we're doing here in Louisiana, and even before we got all this river water, you're not really doing saltwater. You're not doing full-blown saltwater fishing anyways. It's inshore fishing. And we tend to operate in an environment that's less than 20 parts per thousand. With all the river water we've had, it has been less than 10 parts per thousand. And it's evident when you look at the Mississippi freaking Sound, and it's virtually fresh. The Mississippi Sound, you got these, the barrier islands where we're seeing salinities way under 10 parts per thousand. It should be like 15 parts per thousand out here, and it's not. And where are we seeing that 15 parts per thousand, which is about like where the lines start to get green? It's way out here in Never Never Land, places that are really difficult to get to with your boat if the wind's blowing. All right, you got to wait for conditions to get good, or you just have to have an obnoxiously absurd large catamaran boat to safely get out there and not get the snot knocked out of you. So they have one for the Barataria Basin. There's a salinity map like this for the Barataria Basin too, so you West Bank guys can look at that. But this is very important to look at, because what are speckled trout doing right now? They have the urge to spawn. The day's getting longer, the water's getting warmer. It's been warm, and they want to go out and they want to spawn. All right, so they need at least 15 parts per thousand salt water in order to spawn, because that's the saltiest water or the lowest salinity that allows their eggs to float. Fertilized eggs will float into the marsh and then fall down in the water column, or at least float in the marsh and then hatch before they fall down in the water column, because that water there is more fresh. So they can't spawn in that fresher stuff. They do fine in that fresher stuff. Okay, I whacked them all winter long in salinity that's 2 to 4 parts per thousand. Guys, there's drinks you can get at the bar that are saltier than that. All right, but when they're spawning, they want that saltier stuff. So that's where they're going to be headed. They're inside the marsh. They're headed out towards those green lines. All right, so it kind of gives you an idea as to where these fish are. Boom, they're in here, and they're going to head out towards big water. So, sticking with current conditions, let's look at the latest, today's MODIS satellite imagery. Were there just like a lot of airplanes in the atmosphere today? Look at all that. How cool is that? You can see that contrail shadow going across Louisiana too. That's pretty neat. Anyways, look at how that east wind look at that rip right there. This is a learning point right here. Look how that sudden, strong east wind just cleaned all that up. Pretty crazy, huh? You can see Lake Pontchartrain cleaning up a little bit since they began closing the Bonnie Carey spillway. Lake Born's cleaned up a little bit. We're still seeing our dark water in the Biloxi Marsh. Okay, cool. Good clean water there. Plenty of dark water in Reggio and Delacroix. And people have been catching trout there. Mr. Go is nice and clean. Long Rocks look like they're doing good. All right, so as we're all scared of the river water, but it's really not that bad, guys. Okay, fish, the speckled trout are in the marsh. They're going to be headed out. They got to eat. And redfish do fine with the river water. It doesn't really bother them. Ask the guys in Venice. they do fine. So let's move on to predicted conditions. All right, so we'll pull up Windfinder for that. This is my favorite app. Now, I know this is the website, but they do have an app, for iOS and for Android. And tomorrow, Friday, it just looks like it's going to rain its butt off some more. So maybe tomorrow's not a good day to go fishing. Maybe tomorrow's a good day to do something else. Come to the Chags tent sale. Do that. I'm not working it tomorrow, but I will go back to take advantage of the specials. Because I was working, I didn't really get a chance to do that today. Saturday, however, what I like about Saturday is that wind's going to chill out. Look at that. That wind's going to chill out, even though it's going to chill out on Friday, sure. And that water's probably going to drop a good bit there. But it's going to chill out Saturday morning. So, it'll still be a little breezy. It just won't be, 20 knots. And it's overcast. I love overcast weather for speckled trout and even for redfish. So if I'm sight fishing redfish, it's nice to have sun. On Sunday, got a little stronger wind, but that's just fine. Actually, it looks like that wind's going to be booking in from the south, guys. So that's going to, Friday, that water ought to drop like a rock tomorrow. Man, I know it's going to be raining. Guys, I know it's going to be raining, but it's going to drop like a rock. So just keep that in mind. but it'll be coming in pretty good. We ought to have a good rising tide Saturday and Sunday, which is important because if you look at the tides, it's basically a neat tide. I mean, you know, 1 foot high tide, then a 0.7 foot low tide, then a 1 foot high tide. That's not a lot of tidal range, but that strong south wind ought to just bulldoze that little wimpy tide and bring in, you know, a good rising tide. It's going to be warm too. I like that. I'm ready for things to be warm. I'm tired of winter. Had a long, tough winter. All right, let me look at my list here. Okay. All right, so latest fishing reports. Let's pull this up. So yeah, we got some fishing reports here. Here's one from Justin. He caught some trout in Delacroix using multiple techniques with live shrimp and plastics. That is a very detailed fishing report, but I am glad that he posted it because, guys, at the end of the day, all you need to know is that trout are catchable in Delacroix. And if you look at this picture, that's a decent little box. That works. Thank you, Justin. All right, let's look at this next one. Here's one from Jason. He's over there in Lafitte. He went out and whacked some redfish. All right, cool. So they're catching redfish in Lafitte. For me, that's all I really need to know. And you know, guys, I'll let you come here to LAFB Inshore and read the details. Looks like he caught everything on dead shrimp under a 4 horseman cork. Philip has this fishing report for for Hopedale. Okay, he said he's fishing at Lake Robin, and 6 reds, 6 drum, and 2 trout. I guess the weather was bad, so that maybe that kept him off the fish. Otherwise, that's not a bad box. I would be happy with that. Here's one from Derek. Derek went out there and I guess he had a quick fishing trip and went out and caught his limit of not fat redfish, nice redfish, and that's in Coquetry. He's fishing the points, probably moving water around the points is what he was doing. Thank you, Derek, for that fishing report. And here's another one from Philip. A quick late afternoon trip to Little Lake, I assume in Delacroix. And he fished an hour and a half and caught these speckled trout. So that's actually pretty good. So that makes me confident, guys. It makes me confident because if they're able to go out there and catch some fish, that means people are catching fish. It means I can catch fish. You can catch fish. All right, you just have to apply. Just got to apply a good strategy, and that's what we're going to go over next. So, based off, and I might go fishing Saturday. I have a whole plan to start hitting the water hard, doing fishing trip reviews for LAFB Elite and whatnot. And if I had to fish these conditions, I wouldn't fish tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll go to Chags. But Saturday and Sunday, I would definitely use that wind to drift across big lagoons, bays that are inside the marsh. Like we'll do speckled trout or redfish, right? So let's pull this up. Come on, Google Earth. Google Earth wants to be slow. All right. So let's say I want to go catch speckled trout. All right, well, what I would do is little interior lagoons, lakes, bays, whatever you want to call them, like this one. I forget the name of this. I think it's Grand Lake. I would drift across that. So let me see if I can get some better imagery here for you guys. Something that's a little more up to date anyways. Excellent. Here we go. So I'd probably park my boat like right here up against the shoreline and then throw in corks, you know, maybe suspending baits and a jig too. I let the wind just blow me across this lagoon, across this little lake. And if I catch some fish, then boom, I'll get on plane and come back and recock my drift and then start it all over again. Now, keep in mind, right, if you're drifting too fast, and if you're looking at your GPS, drifting too fast would definitely be over 1 mile per hour, for sure. Use a drift sock, kick that bad boy out, slow your boat down. If you haven't found fish, maybe doing a good fast drift is good because you'll just cover more water. Then you can slow down once you catch a fish, once you start catching a couple. So like this body of water is one example. Another example, well, I mean, Little Lake is a dead giveaway, right? Because we had fishing reports for it. But understand that this might be, with that strong south wind, this might be rolling a little bit. So if you want to get in some more lead water, come down here where that south wind, isn't able to blow on this water, and then start at this shoreline and drift out. Maybe fish like the points too. Maybe give that a whack. But I would definitely try drifting. Now start keeping an eye out for birds too, because those brown shrimp are going to start getting on a move. Start getting a move on. And then I would work my way outside. Okay, so maybe after Little Lake, I would hit up, Shrimp Lagoon. And I'm not saying you have to do exactly this. This is just a blueprint for you to use, right? Maybe hit Shrimp Lagoon, get on the shoreline, then drift out. Come fish Four Horse Lake in the usual spots. like where you see these boats parked. Try that out. And then I'll head to a more outside spot, like maybe come out here and get up against the shoreline here, and then boom, drift out. Use that drift sock if necessary. And a more outside area that I would begin trying, even though it might be a little early for it, would be the Long Rocks. Last year, we had a really good year last year at the Long Rocks. This big Long Rock jetty. I'll start looking for fish there too, even though it's kind of early right now, but we did catch a 6-pounder on the Long Rocks last year, jigging matrix shad. So, that might be your shot at a slightly larger fish. I wouldn't call that, a huge trout, but it's definitely a nice one, definitely a big one, especially here in Louisiana. Now, for redfish, playing redfish, and I'll tell you right now, a lot of I'm going to hammer the trout as much as I can. Let me do some here. Guys, I'm going to hammer the trout as much as I can during the spring when they're on their way out to the spawn. But once you're out there in Breton Sound and way far out there, I'm not going to mess with them. Just because it's too much effort. To drive all the way out there, you're rolling past a lot of fish. That's why redfish are good. So even if tomorrow you don't really do too well with trout, boom, roll over immediately to plain redfish. And this is what I would do for plain redfish. So, we have lots and lots of little. I'm trying to think of a good example here. Let's go over here to Bernard Lagoon. Let's see if there's any pictures of Bernard Lagoon with grass in it. Not really. But there is grass in there, I swear. Lena Lagoon might be a better example. I just want something that you guys can see, because we know this water is going to be high, right? Okay. So like here in Lena Lagoon, not far from Brent Sound, or rather Hopedale Marina. Okay, well, whatever. I'm not finding it. There's tons of aquatic grass all through here. Now, when that water is really, really low, when that water gets really, really low, that grass, oh, here's my little grass thing. That grass, let's say that water gets low, that grass leans over like that, and it gets really, really thick, right? And you can't get your boat in it without messing it up, and you can't really cast in it all that well unless you're using a weedless lure, and even then, right? But when that water gets really, really high, boop, 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 the grass stands up, and then you get all this water above it. So you have this grass, and then all this water that's above it, and redfish will be patrolling over the top of that grass. Okay, because there's tons of bait in that grass. Little crabs, any kind of, like potbelly minnows, cockahos, baby bass. There's all bass fry. There's all kinds of things that they can go get. But they can't get in there when that water, it's harder for them to get in there when that water's stupid low and the grass is all leaning over and clumped up. Okay, but when it's up, boom, they can get over it. They can nose down into it. If something pops out of the grass, boom, they can be on top of it. They can eat it. So, go where ponds you normally couldn't fish before. You'll be able to float in them, and you'll be able to fish at for redfish. You can use a popping cork and dead shrimp. Okay, you can throw a swim bait or like a gold spoon. I think you're better off power fishing with a swim bait or gold spoon, something that has a little more booty to it. like a grass pig, because it's going to be blowing, okay, and it can be difficult to cast in a heavier wind sometimes. Might want to use spinning tackle. Anyway, so you can drift these lagoons for redfish just like you do for speckled trout. All right, maybe start like right here by this island, and then just let that south wind blow you across it. Maybe start out, you know, way over here and let that south wind just blow you across the whole dang thing. And if you have a good productive run, then by all means, all right, start all over again. But you know, some of these smaller ponds, and let me try and find a good example of like a little smaller back pond. Here we go. Okay, some of these smaller ponds, like back here, you know, back up in here and whatnot, that water will be higher. You can get back there, and it may be an interest to do that, because fish will go where they couldn't go before, and they do that to discover new feeding opportunities. So you might be able to find fish, redfish back there, and you'll be able to safely float your boat. So let me look at my notes here, see if there's anything else. All right, guys. So that's it. You know, if you got any questions or comments, by all means, please post them up below. Be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel, because I can't always post this to Facebook and share it on, you know, the email and everything else. You know, YouTube has this whole subscribe and like this little bell you can click, so you get alerted whenever one of these weekend fishing forecasts get posted, or any video gets posted. And they put it there, so, you know, let's use it, right? It's that way you always know, and you don't forget. And then you're like, oh man, you know, one thing you said, I wish I would have known that Saturday we would have crushed a fish, but I didn't know it. You know, guys, because all I want you to do is catch fish. Now, that said, what I'm about to do, all right, because I went and did my little bass fishing. I've been doing my spring maintenance on the boat and stuff, and which it would figure that, you know, the trolling motor would break after I get done doing all that. But I got the part to fix it. I'm going to fix it. I'm about to hit the water like it owes me something. All right, and I'm going to do this as part of a blueprint I am creating for members of LAFB Elite, and they can use that and carry it, use it and apply it on their own fishing trips, so they catch fish through the spring and summer all the way until fall. All right, I'm trying to set myself up, set all our members up for success for the summer, because it's going to be a little different with all this river water that we've been having, not just this year but over the years collectively. So I'm going to use that blueprint, and redfish are going to be a backbone of it. But like I said earlier, I'm going to hammer the speckled trout as much as I possibly can while they're on their way out. Okay, and what I do on these fishing trips is I create what's called a fishing trip review, or an FTR, and I go over Google Earth just like what you saw. All right, and I'll pick out, you know, I'll show you. Boop boop doo doo. And I'll go over, and let's say, you know, like in this one fishing trip review, I wanted to fish the East Biloxi Marsh. I was looking, this was last year during the summer, I was looking for speckled trout that were all the way out there. And I go over Google Earth and I pick out each spot, and I tell you why it is I'm picking it out. You know, maybe because it's a point, or there's a tide line, or, you know, whatever. All right, because what I don't do, I just don't go out and just fish spots. Well, me and my pappy caught him here 10 years ago. Let's go try it out. Okay, that's not fishing. That's called gambling. That's just rolling the dice. All right, we're going fishing. We're going angling. So there's the planning video, and then I have a GoPro rolling the whole trip, and I record each fishing spot, so you get to see how I approach it. You know, like when I come off the motor, you know, how I put the trolling motor down, how I troll the shoreline, how I approach it, how I handle it, how I present my baits to the fish. If I don't catch fish, and here's the most important part, if I don't catch fish, what do I do? Okay, what decisions are made? Because I can say, you know, this is what I would do, you know, here, we're sitting in front of a webcam on the internet, but that's not fishing. When you're out there on the water, you're fishing the moment. And that's what you should be doing. You should be looking at the conditions and factoring them in, because you may have planned for things to be one way, then they're going to be completely different. You got to roll with the punches in order to get on the fish. And that's what I do. So each spot's recorded so you can see how I fish it. And then and you get to see all the fish I catch, and I narrate as best I can so you know exactly what it is I'm doing. I'll show you the baits I'm using and stuff. And then I do a post-trip review once I get home. So I take the tracks off my GPS, I boop, 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 upload them to Google Earth, and I'll show you. Okay, so here's like one run through the Biloxi Marsh. And guys, I am not kidding you. That is one run I did through the Biloxi Marsh. That was a long day on the water. Man, look at that, just running around hitting up spots. And I don't hit up every spot, and I don't. There's reasons why. But what I do in the post-trip review, anyway, staying on track here, is I upload these GPS tracks, and we'll go over everywhere it was that I went, and go over. Oops. Oh, dang it, guys. I don't know if y'all saw that or not. Let me backtrack here. Yeah, so here are the tracks right here. You see I launched out of Fort Pike. You can see all this running around that I did. And in the post-trip review, I go over everywhere it was that I went, what happened, and whatnot. So it makes for a very, very good learning experience. All right, so you don't have to learn this stuff the hard way. Anyway. And that's the post-trip review. So it's the planning video, the fishing trip, okay, video of each spot, then the post-trip review. You combine that with Inshore Fishing 101, 201, Sight Fishing Mastery School, and everything else that's inside LAFB Elite, you will knock years off your learning curve. All the things that I had to learn the hard way, you won't have to, and you'll spend more time doing what counts. That's setting the hook and catching fish. So, anyways, I'm not gonna bore you anymore with that. You can use code WFF14 to get 14 days, 2 weeks free, and you can take advantage of that at lafishblog.com/join. Again, if you have any questions or comments, by all means, post them up down below. Until then, tight lines, y'all.